this is Hammer Striker here. Today we're kind of going to do a little bit about laser roundup. I'm going to show you some of the options that are available for lasers and or in some cases laser-like combos that you can put on your guns. And we've got a variety of different guns here, each with a different laser or laser-like combination on it. And one thing you're going to hear is that there's a lot of contention about lasers or lights in general on a firearm. And in some cases there's some strong opposition to them, and in other cases they're like, well, what value is it? The important thing to think about on a laser, and every one of these that I'm going to show you today allows the sights to remain functional. So the use of every one of these lasers is optional. You can choose to turn it on or you can choose not to. Even the ones that have a light, you can choose to turn that firearm mounted light on if the situation warrants it. You know, you're in a darkened theater and one of the attackers, you know, like a couple of these incidents we have started up. And, you know, in that particular situation, a firearm mounted light is going to be better than a handheld light because you may not have your handheld light. At night, if you've got your handheld light, you can hold it off to the side and just don't turn on the firearm mounted light. So before just dismissing, you know, lasers out of hand for the one or two use cases where they'd be a problem, think about the fact that it's an optional piece of equipment to help you. If you're in a, let's say you're in a restaurant, a bad guy comes in and you have to operate the gun from under the table, the laser would definitely allow you to sight much better because in that case you can't bring it up to your face. But in every one of these, your regular iron sights will remain fully operational, and you can choose not to deploy the laser or deploy it as you see fit. There will be a little difference when we talk about the Glock. This one works in such a way that it tends to come on automatically, but I'll show you that you can even choose not to use that one. So now that we got that past us, let's talk about these varying lasers. And there's a variety here on the table, and every one of them is different in some way. The guns that I've got here, obviously the lasers will fit these, and many of these lasers are designed in such a way that they'll either fit multiple types of guns, or the manufacturer of them has one for your gun. All of these are red, but some of them are actually going to be available in green as well, if you like green lasers. So let's start out with the Glock 26. This one is the Crimson Trace Laser Guard, and what it does is it wraps around the trigger guard. And the laser mechanism is up here at the front, and the activation button here is at the back. So when you pick the gun up in a shooting grip, the laser automatically comes on, and you don't have to think about it. So you can see I'm kind of painting the target right here. So the laser comes on the instant you get a proper shooting grip on the gun. But if I were to release the tension on my finger just a hair, it'll go off. So if I wanted to bring the gun up and not deploy the laser, I could just, you know, loosen the tension on this finger a little bit, and then it comes on when I tighten up my grip. At the point that you're ready to fire, obviously you would tighten up your grip and the laser may come on at that moment, but a bullet would in that case be following it very shortly after. So the laser really in that case would give away your position until you're ready to fire. The primary disadvantage to this one is that you know, with that button it bothers some people's fingers. Some people that have bigger fingers, like Hammer's hands are bigger than mine, and in many cases when he grabs the gun the light doesn't automatically come on because his finger kind of catches on some of these other parts of it and doesn't really hit the button. Kind of bring it in where you can see it a little bit. Actually, there's an angle where you can see the button. And it's just a little rubberized button, and it is waterproof. So that, you know, if you're sweaty or whatever, you're not going to wreck the button. And it's smooth, so it doesn't bite into your finger. I don't even notice it. I pick the gun up and I grip it, and this is my EDC. I don't even notice that button is there. I just rock on. And this particular one, it retails for $279, but you can routinely find them much, much less expensive than that. There's many sites that discount them outright and other sites that, you know, constantly run them on sale. And that's kind of the case with all these lasers. I'll state either retail, you know, the MSRP or a price I've seen them for, but in all likelihood you'll be able to get them less expensive than that. So this is an option. This is real popular with the subcompact Glocks, cars, and a few of the others that don't have a rail. So the only option you've got would be to do something that involves the sights, something that goes on the grip, or something like this that wraps around the trigger guard. That way you have the ability to put a laser on a gun that doesn't include a rail. And just so you see, of course the gun was unloaded. That's what it looks like when it's closed. It really doesn't add a whole lot to the footprint of the package. The trigger guard would come right around here. And one of the things you'll notice on it is it's flat at the front, and then it's very flat at the bottom until it curves in. So what this does is it doesn't create a hump. So it fits squarish into a holster. So if you have a holster that can accommodate this laser, and there's a lot of holster manufacturers out there that are making holsters that accommodate lasers, it's a straight in and straight out. So you don't end up having a problem with it wanting to hang up on the holster as it comes out, because it's nice and square. The next one I'm going to talk about is the Crimson Trace Railmaster, and it happens to be mounted on this Walther PPS. And what the Railmaster does is it's a very small laser, and it mounts right on the rail, on the Picatinny rail. So in order to use this particular laser, you do have to have a Picatinny rail forward of the trigger guard. And it has these little toggle flaps. There's one on each side, so they're ambidextrous. And to activate the laser, you use your trigger finger, you push the button. You'll see that you can see the laser's on right now, and I'll point it at one of these targets. You can see the laser is on, and then if I push it again, it's off, and if I push it again, it's on. They're very easy to get to with your trigger finger, and even if you have shorter fingers, I don't have the biggest hands on the planet, but if I've got a shooting grip on this gun, I can easily get to it. And if you're a lefty, this one will work equally well. This particular one is also available in green from Crimson Trace at a higher price. They're retailing this one at about $150 and $270 for the one that's green. And this is one of those that is actually available in the multiple colors. Now, the interesting thing about this one is that this is one of the biggest reasons that we prefer the classic PPS over the M2, because the M2, one of the things they took off was the forward rail. So you couldn't use a laser like this one on the M2. Now, this particular laser can be used on multiple other guns as well. So I'll show you what the profile looks like with it closed. And you'll see that this one doesn't add very much to the footprint of the gun. It sticks out on this particular gun just a little bit, mostly because where we chose to put it on the rail. It comes with a bunch of little adapters that you install here in the rail slots that allow you to position forward and backward to make sure that these little flaps are right where you want them, not sticking into the trigger guard, unless of course you want them to. And the profile of this one is also such that it would not really interfere with holstering, because it's down forward of the trigger guard. So the holster would expand to accommodate it, but it wouldn't necessarily be trying to wrap around it, because it would be gripping most of the time on the trigger guard in the slide. So there's another option for a laser. Next one I'm going to show you is on this XDM, and I'm going to show you the display and close this one, because this laser is at the back. And this laser is a LaserLyte RTB. And it does appear on their site that this one for the XDM may be discontinued by the manufacturer, but as of the filming of this video, we still saw it on Amazon for about $75, so they still are available. But one of the things that's unique about this one is it replaces your rear sight, and it does provide a full sight functionality. So it's that like similar to what the Glocks have. So your rear sights, or your sights, are fully functional with or without the laser. And in this case, the laser is on this can, and the battery and the controls are on this can, and you turn it on by pushing this button, which you can either do with your support hand, or you can reach up with your thumb, but I can't reach it with my thumb. If you got a longer thumb, you can. It's really kind of intended to be operated with your support hand, because even trying to operate it with your trigger finger would be difficult. You're going to give up your shooting grip. The disadvantage to this laser, the primary disadvantage to this laser would be the fact that it's located all the way there at the back of the gun, and it's not convenient to operate. You're going away from being in a firing grip to operate it. The major advantage to this one is that it will work with any holster. So let me turn it on and show you what it looks like. See, right there. And then I can push the button again, and I can turn it off. Now, keep in mind too, we've got all our lighting set up for filming, so we've got a couple hundred watts, or probably close to 300 or 400 watts worth of lighting pointing right down on this. That may make the lasers look a bit washed out, but when you're using them in normal circumstances, whether it's at the range or in a self-defense scenario, you can actually see them quite clearly. It's just all the lighting that we've got here to be able to have a nice bright video does kind of overwhelm these lasers. So this one here, if you want to be able, if you've got a favorite holster and you don't want to give up that holster, and that manufacturer doesn't manufacture one that would fit whatever other lasers you've got, this might be a good choice, but it's probably the least convenient of the various options because of what it takes to actually operate it. And you also do have to press out your rear sight and press it in. But as I mentioned, you still have full use of your sights throughout the hole, so whether you choose to actually activate that laser or not. So the next one I'm going to show you is the first one I've got that actually incorporates a light. Up to date, all these other ones have been laser only, and these next two incorporate a light and a laser. So the first one here I've got is this Viridian C5, and it's on this XDM 3.8 compact, happens to be chambered in 40, and you'll see that it is rail mounted. So this again will work on any gun that has a front rail. However, it is a little bit bulkier. Having the laser and the light and the batteries create a little bit larger package. You can see that there's quite a bit of heft to this thing. It really doesn't seem to weigh that much, but it is just big and bulky. So on a slightly larger gun like this, it's really not a problem. If you had a smaller gun, it may hang down, unacceptably below the trigger guard. And if I close the slide and show you the profile, you'll see it adds kind of some noticeable bulk, and it does actually slide around the trigger guard for additional stability. So it's not just relying on the rail for support. And you have a button on each side, one here and one here, that can be operated with your trigger finger. And if you just hit the button one time, it'll come on in whatever mode you have it in. So in this case I have it in laser mode. However, if you push both buttons together at the same time, you can switch between light, flashing light with laser, and that's kind of meant to kind of dazzle your opponent. It's actually kind of annoying to look at. Pulsing laser, and then back to light only or laser only. And really those modes can be changed, in the middle of things, but it's really not intended to. It's really intended more to set it to the mode you want it in, and when you go to draw it, use the button to just turn it on and off, activate it and deactivate it. But you could, with your grip, bring your other finger up, and I could switch these modes. So if it were appropriate in the middle of a situation I were in to want to change my mode, I could. So this gives you the advantage of, with a single package, the option of having light or laser and choosing to turn it on or not turn it on. It does affect some holster options, because with it sticking down below the trigger guard like that, it'll kind of interfere with some of the, the holstering and unholstering. And these retail for right around $179, at least in the red. So they're not necessarily very expensive, and they are convenient, especially for the little bit larger guns, maybe like something like this, or a service weapon type size gun. The last one I've got is on this Glock 43. And I'll go ahead and close this right away so you can see the profile on it. And you'll see, similar to the Crimson Trace laser guard, this happens to be a TLR6, Streamlight TLR6. And similar to the Crimson Trace laser guard, it wraps around the trigger guard and allows you to accommodate a laser on a gun that doesn't have a forward rail. Glock 42 and 43 don't have a forward rail, as well as the 26 and 27 don't. This one has the same kind of recess button concept. There's one on each side, so they are ambidextrous. And if I move one of these guns out of the way, if I just push the white button once, I get a laser. And like the other one, like the Viridian, if I push the two buttons together, I can switch to light or laser. Now in that case, the laser was on also with the light, but it was washed out by the fact that it's 2 inches away from it. So this one gives you that same flexibility that the Viridian did, of having light and laser. Now this particular one, a local viewer lent it to us, and he also lent it to us with this Stealth Gear holster, because one of his dislikes with this particular one is when it's holstered, when you go to pull it out, it kind of hangs up and you kind of end up having to rock the gun. And the reason for that is it's kind of got this extra hump right here, where it's kind of not square. Unlike the Crimson Trace, where it was kind of square, there's a hump here. And when you put this into a molded Kydex holster that's wrapping around the trigger guard, what you've got is right about there, when you go to pull it, that expansion is causing it to kind of hang up, and the gun kind of cants a little bit, which with this holster out right now, the backing material can flex out of the way. But when he's got this actually on his body with the belt loop through it, you actually have to give the gun a pretty good jerk to get it loose, And if you were to loosen it up enough that you didn't have to do that, then you'd have no retention. This has actually got pretty good retention. So that's one of the things to consider with these varying different lasers is if you're going to carry it in a holster, especially a Kydex style holster like this, what is the profile on the bottom here, and how is that going to affect the ability to draw it? Overall, all of these lasers have been reliable. They've all worked perfectly. They've all just worked from the day we installed them, and periodically have to change batteries. But even the batteries don't have to be changed very often because they don't draw any power when they're turned off, and when they're on with the LED laser, they don't use a significant amount of power. So these are all viable options for adding a laser or a laser light to your carry weapon or your home defense weapon to use in those situations where you feel it's appropriate. So if you like our videos, please give us a thumbs up, share, subscribe, check us out on Facebook, and have a great day. Thank you.